Chapter 36. The Tower. They drove for almost an hour, Tony and Bob trading little war store piloting tips as they learned on the fly. Elle took Bob's seat as the gunner. What? No, she didn't. Oh, yeah, she did. Elle took Bob's old seat as the gunner. Tony explained it quickly. It was very user-friendly. On the bottom of the screen, you select different weapons, then point the reticle and press the big red fire button. It's like a video game, Elle said. Yeah, Perry said, then continued like he was the voiceover in a movie trailer. But if you die in the game, you die in real life. They all laughed. But it's true, so don't miss, Tony said. They drove for a few minutes in silence, no one paying too much attention, until Elle noticed something. Oh shit, there it is, she said in awe. Everyone looked up and saw the Elosa headquarters in the distance. It grew out of the horizon, jaggedly pointing into the sky. It reached so high that you couldn't see the top. The rumors that it went all the way into space might have been true. It poked through the dark cloud ceiling in a vortex-like swirling hole, complete with flashes of forked lightning. It looked and felt very evil, even from this far away. A cross between the Half-Life 2 Citadel and the dark fucking tower. They drove a few miles closer and stopped on top of a hill that gave them a view of the base of the tower and the surrounding area. Bob's eyes widened. Oh shit, man. In a movie, very dark, ominous music would play as the view was revealed. To their dismay, at the base of the building, they saw a bunch of patrolling war stores, gates, checkpoints, searchlights, everything you'd expect at a top-notch evil company headquarters. It was an intimidating, scary sight, and at first everyone subconsciously held their breath for a few moments. Oh shit, they collectively thought. Inside Tony's mind, he thought about how it looked like the perfect last level of a video game. The big, epic, final boss fight. Oh, that's scary, Elle thought out loud. Perry kind of wanted to make a joke about rainbow dildos, but awe overtook his comedy, and instead he said, "It does remind me of a Death Star." Tactics ran through Tony's mind. Attack from the top of the hills, separate and flank, charge together, maybe snipe and pull some, stealth. I move up, Mon. You stay here, Bob said. And then Bob's war store slid around the west side of the valley, staying behind cover of the hill. Wait, man, what's the game plan? Tony whispered back, not sure why he was whispering. No, he didn't whisper. What's the game plan? Tony questioned. There was no reply. Tony looked over at Perry and Elle, and again asked, Bob! He asked. Nothing. They watched as Bob's war store made its way along the hillside, and then stopped. Tony looked at the stacker Lemmy was on. It was turned off. All the humans were fixated on the main screen, watching the tribe's war store. Lemmy's Jeep pulled up and a few of the tribe members jumped off and climbed into the war store. Perry's eyes were wide and still. The screen reflected off of his eyes. What are those monkeys doing? Bob! Tony asked again, this time with urgency. Bob, what are you doing? Is this thing working? Bob's war store rotated. It now faced the tower. Tony looked at Elle and Perry and they all shrugged. Tony rubbed his eyes with his hands, thinking. Bob's war store accelerated. It started climbing the hill towards the tower. "Bob! Bob! What the hell are you doing?" Tony yelled. The tribe's war store finally responded. Bob and King's face into view. King looked into the camera. "We go to building. We save brothers." Their war store crested the hill and headed down towards the valley. They were heading straight towards the building, right into the patrolling war stores and defenses. "What?" Tony yelled. He looked back and forth, quickly rubbing his eyes again, thinking. He was still thinking, but he began moving the war store into a better vantage point to back them up. "I don't know what the fuck they're doing, but we gotta give them cover if they need it, El." She wasn't thinking about that and refocused on the screen. Tony yelled over to her. "That button on the side zooms in. You might need it from this far away." She found the zoom button and began zooming in on the war store nearest to Bob's. Two Elosa war stores suddenly changed course directly towards Bob's. They must have seen him. Within seconds they were firing at each other. El shot the main cannon and missed bad, the shell exploding short of its target. Perry ran over and looked over her shoulder. The main cannon was so big when it reloaded, everyone in the war store could feel it. Tony tried to advise. "Try those tank turrets." El fired the tank turrets. The enemy war store moved out of the way and it missed. Scoot over, Perry yelled impatiently. El held out her arm and blocked him. Wait, hang on." On the main screen, Bob hit one of the enemy war stores with a main cannon blast. Direct hit right in the middle of the chest. The shell exploded and ripped a hole in the armor of the giant beast, but it kept coming, billowing fire and smoke from its chest. The damaged war store returned fire on Bob's. The main cannon hit Bob's war store. "Oh!" Everyone yelled. Everyone yelled and fixated on the main screen. Bob's war store burst into fire. Some tribe members fell off his shoulders on fire like ragdoll physics, flipping them through the air. Perry pushed at El's arm. "Get out of the way, they're dying, El!" "Hang on," she yelled again. Then, with her eyes squinting at her screen, she hit the fire button. The cockpit in the second enemy war store was zoomed in on her screen. The shell hissed out in high velocity, in a low, perfect arc, and smashed into the war store cockpit with an explosion. El quickly mashed the fire button, trying to cash in on her winning aim. The three other tank turrets fired in rapid succession with low and deep whooping sounds. Boop, boop, boop. A second later, the three shells flew into the war store with successive, deeper explosions. The entire section of the war store that used to be its cockpit exploded into a black, burning mess. The war store stopped moving, dead. Elle looked back and forth and shook her head. "Ooh, ooh," her Viking helmet mimicking her head movements a moment later. "Damn," Perry and Tony both said, surprised. Bob's war store quickly maneuvered behind the war store Elle just killed, using it for cover. The enemy war store was trying to get a shot off, but had to wait when Bob went behind cover. Just like Bob told Tony in the arcade. Instead, the enemy war store aimed to where Bob should come out on the other side, but Bob hit the brakes and went in reverse. It's his war store backing out the opposite side of where the enemy was aiming. He had a free shot and he made it count. Another main cannon hit to the chest. The enemy war store's chest exploded and it was covered in smoke and fire from the middle up. It slowly turned and stopped moving, dead. Fiery bodies jumping out of the cockpit and puffing onto the ground. Bob's war store turned towards the tower and accelerated. "Bob!" Tony yelled. He looked to his fellow humans. "Should we follow him?" Bob appeared on the stacker and replied, "We got to do this, man." Tony hit the gas and their war store accelerated down the hill. At the bottom of the hill, there was a gate and a checkpoint. Tony turned a little bit and went out of his way to make sure he ran it over. The Elosa guards scattered like ants. "Fuck shit up, Elle," he reminded her. And she started using the cannons to... Never mind, she didn't do anything. Bob's war store was on a collision course with the tower, at full speed. Tony adjusted course to meet them. Another war store engaged them. They took a few superficial hits, but Elle fired back and did the same. "Okay, Elle, I'm gonna start and stop moving randomly. When I stop, you shoot." "Okay," Elle replied, "but I'll tell you before you stop, so you'll be ready." "Okay," she answered. "Okay," Tony said slowly. "Now!" And the war store stopped moving. Elle took a second to adjust and fired the tank turrets and scored some direct hits. Ba-boom! After she got the hits, Tony accelerated. A moment later, the spot where they were was hit by the enemy's main cannon. Dirt exploded behind them. "Ha ha! Yeah, bitches!" Tony yelled. "Noob AI!" He was at full speed now in a few seconds. "Okay, ready? I'm about to stop again," he asked Elle. "Ready," she said. He hit the brakes. Elle waited for the stop, adjusted, and fired both turrets and the main cannon. In rapid succession, like someone hammering a nail, the shells ripped into the enemy war store body and twisted it into an explosive metal wreck. "Oh, nice, Elle!" Perry and Tony yelled. Then quickly thought out loud, "Hey, how come these nuclear engine things aren't exploding?" "I was just thinking that," Tony replied. Then he turned his attention back to Elle. Okay, now they might be waiting for us to stop again, so just fire while we move. We gotta switch it up." "Okay," Elle replied and started zooming in. He hauled ass. A massive explosion hit right in front of the war store. "Oh!" and rocked the whole thing. "Oh, shit!" Elle and the remaining enemy war store exchanged fire, mostly misses. Elle recommended, "Do that stop thing again." "Okay," Tony replied and then focused for a few minutes. "Okay, now!" And he hit the brakes. Elle waited, aimed, and then fired, this time hitting the bottom of the enemy war store. Giant tank treads exploded into a mess of metal, and that side of the war store sank into the dirt. Elle was starting to make this look easy. Across the way, the tribe's war store was nearing the entrance to the tower. The tribe's war store's front machine guns lit up the entrance of the tower, and guards scattered into the night. The war store was still running full speed right up to the tower. "Oh shit!" Perry yelled. "Are they gonna ram it?" No way," Elle said, not believing that was going to happen. Tony just looked and drove as fast as he could towards them. At the last second, their war store skidded to a stop, almost touching the tower. From the humans' view, they saw tribe members instantly climb out of the cockpit and down the war store. King and Slash running in front, the rest of the tribe sparkling behind them in their metal armor. Lemmy's Jeep pulled up and did a power slide up next to the war store, its occupants jumping out in synchronicity. The war store's front-facing machine guns were scanning the area. A group of about 20 gorillas and chimpanzees entered the front door of the tower. Tony noticed that Bob was not one of them. Elle asked, "Are we going in there?" Perry looked around. "It's either that or play tank wars out here." They all stumbled as their war store was hit in the back. The war store rumbled and made unseen sounds of giant bending metal. It sounded like the Titanic going down. None of them liked that sound. "Let's go!" they all yelled. "Okay!" The humans, Janice, Moon, all ran out of the cockpit and began climbing down the war store. Immediately, the air of smoke and war overcame them. The rough wind pounded on them and yelled in their ears. Leaving the cockpit was like entering a different planet atmosphere. They ran for the entrance of the tower. Tony looked up at the tribe's war store cockpit as he ran by. hoping to see Bob or something, but he didn't. It just sat there. As they ran up to the door, there was a dead body in the doorway. It was a chimp. Perry was the first one there and stepped over the body, pulling out his shotgun and getting ready. Inside the lobby, it was a bloodbath. Mostly dead and ripped apart humans. Blood splatters up the walls. Even some blood on the ceiling. There were hacked body parts mixed around so much that it was hard to tell what part went to which body. There were dead chimps and apes also. Elle almost slipped in a pool of blood, stepping over some bodies. At the end of the lobby, the automatic door to enter the next room was opening and closing on a dead body. Tony grabbed it and held it open as they walked through. "Elevators," Perry said and jogged down the hallway. "Oh shit, look!" He was looking at a digital readout above each elevator. They all had vastly different numbers. One read 8,242. He yelled in a high-pitched voice, 8 motherfucking thousand floors! What the fuck? Elle pointed at an open door. It was broke open. It was the door to the stairs. Tony and Elle ran towards the door. Wait. I am not walking up 8,000 motherfucking floors, Perry told them before he followed. They kept running. They ran up a few floors, following a trail of blood and dead bodies. "Where the fuck are they going?" Tony asked, looking up the stairwell. "I think they're trying to free the lab monkeys they have here," Elle said. At the second floor, Perry was already out of breath. "They're not even like real monkeys, right? They're like clones. The only thing they're gonna find here is some Alien 4 Ripley clone shit." Tony looked back at him. "Yeah, you might be right. I don't know. Then they're gonna be really pissed." Elle stepped over a human body whose head was sliced off above the jaw. "You mean they're not pissed now?" she said, pointing at the sliced off head. The humans heard the sound of footsteps above them. They all froze and listened. Then they heard voices. Human voices. They were heading down the stairs, talking about killing monkeys. Tony opened the door to the floor they were on and silently waved everyone in. The clanging on the metal steps got louder as the guards approached their floor. As the guards descended upon their floor, just as the last guy passed the door they were hiding behind, Perry pulled up his shotgun and Tony opened the door. Perry blasted through the opening and blew a giant chunk out of the last guy's back. A meat wad flew against the wall. Tony, Perry, and Elle entered the stairwell, unloading their weapons, dropping 4 of the guards before it even became a gunfight. They had surprised the guards and had higher ground. Elle turned and was looking into the stairwell doorway. She pulled out her axe, ready to switch back to her guns if need be. In between Perry and Tony's gunshots, she heard footsteps behind them. She turned and saw a figure running towards her. It was a bloody guard. He didn't have a gun, but he had a sword, and he was charging at her with it raised above his head. She was startled and decided to go for her guns. She tried to pull it out too quickly, and the nose caught the edge of the holster, and she fumbled, dropping it to the floor. Quickly, it was too late to try and pick it up, and the guard was on top of her. He swung the sword down at her with a massive blow. Her vision was obscured by her oversized Viking helmet, but she attempted to dodge to her right. The sword caught the left side of her helmet, which almost knocked it off her head, but she was wearing the chin strap, and the helmet stayed on. The guard's charging body collided with hers, and they tumbled to the floor. As Elle was falling, her body hit the side of the door frame, and that kept her from falling completely prone. She ricocheted, shook off the collision, and looked. The guard was face down on the floor in front of her, but attempting to turn over and get up. She checked her holsters. Both pistols were now missing. The guard was scrambling to move forward. Elle looked in front of him and saw one of her Glocks. He was going for it. Now she could never get to it before him. Her other gun was nowhere to be seen. She thought, "Oh, fuck! This idiot's gonna shoot me!" just as she saw her battle axe lying on the floor. She grabbed the axe as the guard grabbed the gun. Her face grimaced as she lifted and brought the axe up over her head. In slow motion, the guard rolled over pointing the gun, and Elle brought down the axe with all her might. The gun went off a millisecond before the crunchy, squishing, dead thud sound the battle axe makes when it chops someone's skull into two. Elle had closed her eyes and swung. She opened them and saw a wisp of smoke in front of her. She looked down and saw her battle axe, one shiny bladed side sticking up, perpendicular to the ground, the other side covered in brains and blood and stuck into the ground. On either side of the axe was a cross-section of the human skull. Below the axe blade, the two sections of skull and face came together at the neck. She had actually chopped his fucking skull in half. Both cross-sections of the man's jaw twitched as he tried to say his last words. Only bubbles came out. She noticed blood in the lower part of her vision and looked down. Her chainmail vest was bloody and had a hole. She was shot. Panic flushed over her and she felt her chest. He shot her in the boob. She grabbed her left breast and felt it, and her hand was instantly covered in blood. There was a hole in the front of her breast and another hole coming out the left side. The bullet went straight through her left breast. Her first thought was that she was lucky and probably wasn't going to die, but her second thought was, fuck, there goes my nice tits. That was one of my best parts. She looked up, ready to yell for help. Tony and Perry were standing at the edge of the stairs, staring in awe at the gory skull she had split in half. Perry was engrossed by their brains slowly creeping out of the skull bowl. Tony jumped over the corpse. Oh shit, are you okay? He shot me in the tit, she said and fell to her knees. Tony knelt near her and tried to clean and dress the wound as well as he could right then and there. Perry had been grazed in the neck also, but he didn't seem to know yet. Elle looked up at Perry. Oh, you got shot too? Perry looked over his shoulder like she was talking to someone behind him. Then he looked down and saw his shirt was covered in blood. He stumbled back, shocked, trying to wipe off the blood at first, then feeling around his chest for bullet holes. Tony looked up at him. I think it's up near her neck. Perry felt the graze wound on his neck. Oh, shit! It shot me! From above them, they heard more yelling. Then gunshots. They all looked up, waiting to hear the next sound. Perry said, man, this place has how many fucking thousand floors? He looked up the stairwell. What the fuck are those monkeys gonna do? Tony looked down. We gotta find them or get out of here. Fuck! Elle looked around. Hey, where'd Janice and Moon go? Tony and Perry had gotten caught up in the moment. They both looked around and shrugged.